Deep breaths. Are we recording now? Okay, I'll take my bubble off. I know, it's all that little uncomfortableness at the beginning.
Yeah.
So welcome to episode 2 of the podcast. How did we get here? Which is a journey of exploration with some amazing guests, talking about their spiritual awakening, how they got to be where they are today. And with me today is Joanna, and I don't know how to say your surname.
You can say Joe.
Jo.
Joe.
This is Jo, and Jo is a business doula. She's one of my team. She is CEO of Earthlings in Business.
No, I'm just a founding member.
A founding member of Earthlings in Business, which Jo's going to tell us a little bit about in a minute, and all-round amazing human being and somebody that I am really grateful to call one of my good friends. So welcome, Jo.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And how did you get here? Well, do you want to just talk about a little bit of who you are and what you do first before we go into the deep questions?
I do struggle with that question. So I'm Jo. I'm a Portuguese living in Newcastle, England. I've been here for 10 years. I am a business doula. I combine, let's say, my caring nature with my experience around business. I studied international business, so that's wanting to bring a little bit of that to people like you as yourself that want to share your gifts with the world. I am a mom of a beautiful teenager. I would say that's my main role.
So we connected through Heart of Consent, didn't we?
Yeah.
And actually the topic of today's podcast is how to save the world, because we connected with this dual sorry, this dog's being ridiculous. This dual connection of like growing up and just having this idea that we wanted to save the world.
Yes.
But yeah, tell us a bit more about Earthlings in Business.
Earthlings in Business was created to bring the community together so we could share our resources and help each other have more reach, have more impact. More than reach, impact, because we can have it in depth as well. It doesn't need numbers.
Yeah.
Right? And Aisha, first marketing person, put it together, and in January last year, online communicated it, and people started to really adhere to that. We weren't expecting to be sold out in the first event. So yes, and it has grown. We are nearly 300 members now in the group. It was actually quite organically, and amongst us there has been a lot of collaborations, beautiful stories of support. Like, it's really like the idea behind all of that, at least in my vision, is a network of intentional communities where we all care for each other and for the community, not an isolated community, like inserted in the wider community. And that is it. This is really has to do. I thought United Nations was it, and that was what I studied for, to go into United Nations. That was my goal until I did apply, but I was rejected to volunteer. But my application was not accepted, and I studied a little bit deeper what United Nations was. I mind it's 20 years ago or more, so don't ask me much questions. But it was a true disappointment that I actually lost total faith in humanity.
What made you lose that faith in humanity?
The fact that United Nations was not that model that I was expecting to be, that actually would make a difference. And as everything, like these global systems, organizations, whatever, it's too much to manage. There are gaps to be filled. I lost faith in these big organizations. because I saw that things didn't work, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's politics. And after that, when I realized this in a paper in university, I really I really gave up on trying and just went into, you know, a corporate job. Yeah, did the 3D things,
Mm-hmm.
and life didn't flow at all because I was doing things against
Mm-hmm.
my calling, my drive, trying to fit in. Um, until I was 30 something, and I lived next door was my best friend living, so we would share dinners a lot of time, and she's a single mom as myself.
Yeah.
So we would share dinners, and there was one day, I think I was 33, and finishing dinner, and we were quiet, and I was like, if this is one third of our lives, and now for the next two thirds, are our lives be all the same? You know,
Mm.
us here sharing dinner, working in a very small village in Portugal.
Yeah.
I was craving for more,
Yeah.
for experiencing life. I was just craving, longing for, I was longing to have impact.
Right. Okay.
And I didn't realize this. This can then, you know, from thinking that I was just a good person, wanting to save the world, noticing that
Mm-hmm.
it's all for my own fulfillment, really, that will mean that I am fulfilled. Just the fact that I'm doing something that matters,
Yeah.
you know. And Earthlings in Business is becoming a little bit of that, you know, because this is all about the small communities, small groups of people
Yeah.
to maximize their resources,
Mm-hmm.
care for each other, thrive, help lift each other up, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so Earthlings in Business meets at the moment, it's in person, and then there's an online community.
Yes.
So is it the first or the second Thursday of the month?
The second Thursday of every month, we meet
And
at Earthlings, the Healing Cafe in Newcastle. We have a Facebook group that people can join as well
mm-hmm.
from all parts of the world. We are already having it's beautiful that we have so many nationalities already in the group. Um, and yeah, hopefully we will start going around and touch more communities, because there are people that are coming 1 hour, 2 hour drive every Thursday, every month, you know, every
Yeah.
second Thursday. So we want to, if there is a need for more of these, let's go.
And what I really loved about it when you first started to tell me like the bigger vision, because I love vision, mission, um, and yeah, having that shared goal of trying to trying to save the world. One of the things that you said was like, actually, Earthlings in Business isn't just about Newcastle. It's your vision is much wider. It's like a worldwide thing.
It's a United Nations thing.
Yeah.
It's really, but with more local autonomy, let's
Mm-hmm.
say. Yeah, it is exactly that. It's creating villages. Can you imagine villages spread it out like 200 villages around the world that we communicate and we are connected with each other?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but with no hierarchy, you know, this is, we are just what we are, humans,
Mm-hmm.
inhabitants of this earth.
That's what I really love about you, Joe, is just this like real slowness and depth and the way that you move through life. Yeah. It's yeah, I think you're one of the most interesting people that I know.
It's in Don, it's really the way you see me, it takes me to another level of the who I am question. It has been like this. You have been really fundamental for me because I trust you. I know that you really mean that about me, but I'm just a normal person, and I think that everybody is capable of. Really, I don't think. In fact, I get frustrated because others don't, you know, but just because I don't think I do anything.
Mm,
But yes, you know, but I also have, talking about spiritual awakening, like I do, and the course, for example,
mm,
and I mentioned a lot about the ancestral trauma of
Yeah.
being my ancestors, our ancestors being burnt
Mm-hmm.
in the fire,
Yeah.
buried alive, persecuted. And I do think that fear, there is a lot of fear still
Yeah.
in me. And holding hands with people like you that I really trust to take me into the underworld. But come on, what's this? Meeting a fox. What are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And you really helped me to normalize these. Not thinking first that I'm not yet. I said buried alive, but a lot of us were also put into mental health
Yeah.
institutions,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like now it's safe for us to come out, but it wasn't always like this. And
No.
I think that slowness of me,
Mm-hmm.
of my processing, has to do a lot with that. And I really go very slowly because I tick the bipolar box. And I don't identify as bipolar, but I do tick the bipolar box. And I really need to go carefully
Mm-hmm.
because if I'm going on a journey, that you are guiding me through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really have when I met my grandparents in a session with you, I was with them. My mind cannot say differently because I was with them. But of course I know that they passed and they were not here.
Yeah.
But I feel their presence. I don't miss them,
Mm.
It's like, but again, if I go and talk about this to my, my regular circle around
Yeah.
people, it makes no sense, right? It makes no
Absolutely. It
sense.
makes no sense.
But you totally get what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So but I really needed, so I don't go one-offs journeys or even breath works. I don't
Yeah.
engage in sessions one-offs unless I know that I can reach out or
Mm.
or something. I really take care in what I get involved until I don't, and then I commit with a lot of things and I do too much at the same time and then I crash.
No, I didn't know that actually, Joel. Thank you for sharing that with
Yeah.
me. Because it's actually because bipolar is actually a contraindication for breath work.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you're managing yourself
Yeah.
like that. That's
Yeah.
because one of the things that we ask when we're running breath works is, do people have that level of ability to kind of like look after their self-care, and putting in the contraindications is so important because it is activating and it can take people to these deep places. Is actually something that I'm going to talk about on the next episode with Carly, who is training to become a counsellor. And it's one thing that we really bonded on. It's this need for safety. And I know that in these spaces, you can't always have safety, but just providing everybody with the information, and then they can make an informed choice. And yeah, but it's really, rather than just, because at the beginning of my journey it was like, oh, you kind of do, and some of the retreats that I've been to at the very early stages when I was really quite naive, vulnerable, and going through some deep things, and they weren't held in the way that I would expect, and you weren't cared for. And so yes, they weren't, I would never go back to those places, but I learned a fucking lot about how to hold space, how to look after people, make sure the contraindications, and the breath work that I did was trauma informed. And for me as a facilitator, I keep going back to learn. And again, we're going to cover this on the next episode about being qualified, but it's just really important. And we don't always get it right, but yeah, thank you.
Although I was always very curious about all these other realms, energy work, all these kind of things, this mystic knowledge or wisdom, or I've avoided to go into that because my mind goes and creates stories and then I would live there.
Right, okay.
The thing that, the technique, let's say, that I tried that really calmed me down and life changed and the whole lot was purely meditation. For 5 years, 6 dates out of 7, I would sit down for 20 minutes at least and I'd meditate, just focusing on my breath. But what happened was that I didn't have any other support, and that was just re-traumatizing.
Shit.
It is that we don't know what we don't know, right?
Oh.
And because, of course, when you just meditate on the breath without trying to change it or anything, just observing the breath, you will observe everything will start coming up. The Pandora box. What do we do with that? Like, I remember being meditating and crying. Just I didn't know what to do with the guilt or with the shame. And when the voices were loud and I was just there, of course, I ended up learning how to dissociate. Of course, I didn't know that back then. So it's very hard for me to trust any teacher.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It is really hard. Like, I lost my faith in gurus when I watched the Wild Wild West Osho story. Well, Wild Wild West on Netflix, I watched it, and Osho, it was really bad. He had 21 or 22 Rolls Royce, and for me, someone that wants to have a good impact in the world doesn't own 21 Rolls Royces, like it doesn't make sense.
Why do you need them?
You can have one. I wouldn't say I'm not, I mean, one is fine,
But
but
not 20.
why, right? Why? Can you imagine how many people one Rolls Royce can feed? Really, so I lost, and that was and when I saw, Doreen Virtue, the Oracle card, when she converted to Christianity.
Yeah.
That was really, oh my God, that was one of the people that I trusted, the cards, the all of that. And then suddenly she was taking everything out of the market because it was inspired by, some sort of evil
Demonic
force
stuff. Yeah.
Like,
And especially if you have had that. Yeah. Whoa.
exactly. So no more teachers for me. I started to learn, and then I asked for help. Of course, I had a spiritual director, and then she became my psychotherapist.
Right. Okay.
And for 4 years, I saw her. And it was really helpful to manage. I didn't want to go on medication. And if I'm waiting for the NHS to, I don't know if I can say this, but,
Please say.
I'm waiting. It has been nearly 4 years since I asked for help, that I was in a crisis. All I got was a text message with a few numbers of, mind and that I could contact. If it wasn't my personal network, I would probably, when the bipolar, you just get diagnosed after like 3 going into the hospitalization. So 2-3 episodes that take you to hospital, that's what it takes. Like, prevention is so poorly. I would say worldwide, right?
Wow.
But that came back more. Why do I want to build community? Because it was never the systems that, you know
Because they saved you.
yeah. And if I go, they will give me lithium, right? But if I come to you, will hug me, and that's sorted. The problem is sorted. Move on. You see?
Joe, I had no idea. Like, you've told me little snippets, but this is what I love about you. Like, I think I posted it in the Earthlings and Business group. It takes me a lot to get into my heart because I live up here in my head, but I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, I love you, Joe, because you inspire me every day and you just reveal more and more of these layers of who you are, and you're just one of the most interesting people that I've ever met, because it's just so that. And you said, oh, just everyone's like that. They're not, Joe.
What do I do with this information then? Because it's not that I am better than others, right? I want to own it as well. And this is the other thing, because saying, oh, thank you, or don't say that, or that is running away of the responsibility of being who I am. So I'm learning now how to own it and be responsible for that. What do I do with that?
Do you know what, Joe? If you'd have told me this at the beginning when we first started to work together, I probably would have felt too much pressure. But now I know what you've told me. Like, it's such a fucking honor.
I don't know that. Like,
I'd have been like, oh my God, I can't, we can't work together, because my greatest fear, this is really interesting. My greatest fear is if someone come and works with me, and through one of the practices, they get hurt, or they get into like some kind of, and it stopped me. That's why it took me, after learning to do breath work, 2 years to dare go and do, because I was petrified of causing harm. And
I don't go. I just don't go, and I just engage with the practice. And normally I dissociate. It was you were
yeah,
in the first one that something happened. It was at Lisa's.
yeah, okay.
Remember? I don't know if you
Yeah,
remember.
yeah, I
That was
do.
the first time that I cried and my hands became like that and all of that. But again, I trusted you and Lisa a lot, and because I trusted you, I can trust myself. So it doesn't, if I cannot handle it, I know that I can ask for help. That's the one thing. But the fact that I can ask for help gives me more resources. So I
Mm.
can relax, not gives me, but I can become aware more of my resources
Mhm.
because, yeah, I'm relaxed and I can, yeah, like there are other things, but I've learned, as I said, so I think it's very important that everybody is responsible and know themselves while they go into any of these
Yeah.
practices, that they are awesome and with incredible potential for becoming. I was going to say transformation, but it's more the becoming,
Yeah.
but with the right support.
That's a really good name, Becoming.
Oh, you can have it. You can have it. Oh, I like it.
Um, yeah, because I just want to reflect this back as well, Joe. Like, when I know that when I first met you, the episodes that you were having were like a lot. And when I think about the things that you've had to deal with this year and everything, that version of you uh, wouldn't have been able to handle. And it's just, yeah, I just wanted to just reflect back just how amazingly well that you're doing, Earthlings in business, going from strength to strength, the personal issues that you've got at the moment. And you're still here. You haven't run away.
I'm stronger than ever.
Yeah, I see
Although,
it.
I've been ill. It has been 2 weeks that I've been struggling with some voices. But after my birthday, what you call the expansion hangover, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and still here, all of that. But yes, in realizing, thinking about a year ago where I was and where I
Yeah.
am, this is the power of community.
Mm-hmm.
This is because I gave more of myself to others, vulnerable. It's so vulnerable. But that's where I'm getting the strength and the tools and the resources, to keep going. It's really, sometimes it's just having someone to reach out at the other side of the phone. If I knew this before, or if I was able to be open and stay open and receive help
Mm-hmm.
before, I wouldn't have spent sometimes months in a depressive episode. And for over a year, they don't take longer than, well, I'd say for me to isolate, maximum 2 days, because
Wow.
otherwise someone is knocking at my door. If like, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really, really that. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I think it's common with quite a few people that I've spoken to, like things that would have sent you under for a couple of weeks. Now it's a day, two
Yes.
days, a few hours. It's,
Yes.
it's like the speed that we're moving through things.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I think that's, when we were having these like, what is even an awakening? Is it just like one moment, or is it all these little
Yeah.
tiny unravelings? But actually, what it's doing is building resilience within us and making us, as you say, much stronger to deal with, yeah, everything.
So can we talk a little bit about this spiritual awakening meaning? Because if we go back to, if we think about the Stoics, and I don't know much about it. When I start talking, it seems like I know a
You
lot
do,
about,
yeah.
but
Like a
no,
real academic. Well, when we talk about the Stoics or
no,
like Plato.
no, not me. But yeah, if we think about the the Stoics or even other tribes, ancient wisdom.
Hmm.
Is it spiritual awakening? Is it spiritual awakening because we are accessing again our inner wisdom that was always there but asleep? Is that what it means? Or I,
I think, believe, feel what has become true and feels true for me is that when we're born, when we incarnate into this life, and again, it's not something that I was like anti-religious, I was anti all of this. I was just normal,
yeah.
like a 3D life, but interested. Um, we get like an amnesia. I was reading about this morning actually. So our when we come into the body, we have all the ancestral memories and wisdom from our ancestral line, and that's in the body. But then we also have the soul's memories as well. So we could incarnate into an ancestral line that isn't necessarily our soul family. And so our soul might have lived on and it might have had 1,000 different previous lives, but we forget. But our soul is eternal and it remembers. So what happens, the process of awakening is actually the soul remembering who it is and starts to remember the past lives and all of the collective wisdom. And then we also connect to our ancestral wisdom as well. So what's happened on an ancestral line, that's, when you're talking about feeling of like being burned or buried or whatever,
Yeah.
like our body remembers through epigenetics and through the DNA and through, so when we put ourselves into these situations, like speaking out, doing a podcast,
Yeah.
talking about our gifts, when our gifts come online, it triggers all, because it does, it feels like we are, and like you say, it is safe for us now. But yeah, like over Christmas, I've been trying to find a house for like 6 months, and every time I walked into a house, I was getting like shaken, and I was like, what is this? I was like, what the fuck is this? And so I was at this retreat up in Scotland, at one of the shamanic training centres that I've trained in called Lendrick Lodge. And I took it into the breath work, and everyone else was just kind of lying on the floor having a nice time. And I had a sick bucket. So it was like an ayahuasca purge. So I was like, okay, like what? And the specific question I put in was, why can I not find a house? What is the resistance? So went into the breath work. I was kind of purging, releasing, and I was taken back to my great grandmother. Yeah, my great grandmother. Yeah, that's right. And she basically took on the patriarchy. She divorced her husband because he was a womanizer, alcoholic. I think he used to beat her. So she divorced him, made the front page of the papers. So she lived with her children as a single parent, and her family had a lot of money. But then when her parents died, back then women weren't allowed to own property or money. And so in 1930 something, just before the war broke out, her ex-husband took her to court. He got custody of the children, got her money, and he had her institutionalized. So in this breath work, I was taken back, and I was kind of in this electric shock therapy thing. And I was like, purge it, because what happened to me last year, the same series of events, my dad died. So I divorced my husband, then my dad died. Then I was kind of sharing the children, trying to fight. And so my body thought, oh, you're going to be in. So I couldn't find a house, or I couldn't kind of, it was just so, yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
And so I was
I do believe
crying.
in that. It makes so much sense to me.
Actually,
Yeah.
I need to shake it off.
Yeah.
Can,
Yes.
can we pause for a minute while I shake this? It's
You
like,
can shake it. It's real. This is real.
but yeah,
Yeah.
but then when I came after I'd like cleared that, I came home after then and found a house like that. Like I'd felt it cleared from my system.
I do believe that's what a lot of us are doing. The clearing. So the work never ends. But if we think about, there is no separation. So
No.
if there is no separation, it's not them or us, it's not ours. It's just bits of us that are doing the work throughout. dimension of time or whatever. But if there is no time anymore, you know.
Yeah, some of that, I get that on a conceptual level, but when I try, my body just goes like, oh,
Yeah.
when it's like, it is no time, we're all just kind of spiraling around, and you can go to different paths like that, and I'm like, I get it, and it might be true, but my little brain.
No, well, I'm talking, but of course that I freak out with the ideas, and if I go through the experience, yes, if I was really connecting to the words that I was saying, yeah, because the mind cannot conceive it. So, right?
Absolutely. So what does awakening mean for you, Joe?
I really don't like that word.
I know.
Yeah, I don't like any of that. That it implies that something or someone is better than. Like awaken means more than
Ooh.
asleep, you know. And I think as humans, we are all in honorable stages of the process. And so to say, I would use words like aware, but not aware, self-aware, you know, self-aware, because I think that's all we need to do. If we just focus or invest our time and energy researching what's, you know, what begins when our eyes close and everything else, we wouldn't have much time to deal with or to think of much else, but still see effects. You know, like if we work, as you said, you worked in your body, you create a space, and then you have a beautiful house now. You know, like now, and so I don't like to call conscious things. I would prefer not unconscious. You know, because like fully conscious or fully awakened or fully enlightened, I think that's not what as humans in this form, human form, are meant to do. But I do feel the longing to.
Yeah.
So I still, that's what I pursue. Don't get me wrong, and I practice daily. But will I achieve something in this lifetime? I don't know, but it feels really like, is there not if there's actually no separation, it doesn't really matter. Because what matters for me now, in order for me to be happy and feel fulfilled, is that I have the sense that I'm doing everything that I can.
Yeah.
In my role in this animal species that I am included. I'm not thinking about spiritual in ways of before and after and a bigger purpose, you know, like who am I meant to be just because I am a rational animal. You know, like birds, every other species has a role, and they don't, you know, I don't feel like doing that. So the bird that normally goes in the front decides to go in the back today. No, that doesn't work, because that will affect the whole journey of the whole family, you know. And I think I'm more interested, more than awakening, I'm more interested in being more human.
More human, yeah. Yeah, me too. No, I don't like that term. I think
But I think,
the hierarchical. Go on,
no,
Joe. Go
think,
on.
but
I love
I
it.
think there is no more awakened than that. You know, like if the goal is being human, I don't think that. I think that's enlightenment. So even and that even, what am I saying? You know, feel like I'm saying, oh, I just want to be human. You know, like cool. And this is.
Yeah, but that's what they like. There's a whole phrase about like spirit, like before spiritual enlightenment. What is it? Chop wood, carry water. After chop wood, carry. It's like
Yeah.
it's about, and that's it. It's like we're spiritual beings having a human experience. It's like in the depths, in the human. But I think so many of us, included me, especially at the beginning, I was like, oh, ascension. Oh, wait, yeah. And you look around, like you said, all these gurus, and actually, if anyone now tells me that they're enlightened, I get like the ick. I'm like, I don't
Me
believe you.
too. No,
It's
me
like,
too. I cannot trust that person.
no.
But of course, I will be curious and ask, what do you actually mean?
Yeah.
about that.
Because it might be a miscommunication, actually. That might not mean what, and that's the thing.
And that's what actually happens. I mean, I think words are quite limiting. And even English is not my first language, but still, I don't think it's a matter of different languages.
I think it makes you better, actually, because English isn't your first language, because you're interpreting it.
Yeah.
Because I think we, as English speakers, we might get lazy with our words, so we don't really think about what we really mean. But because yours is coming through, I don't know. I'm just
Is it true? No,
is
it
it
is true
true?
because I'm thinking in Portuguese, like there are concepts that I never, like compassion. Compassion, I never thought about what the word meant. Never, really.
It just happens.
And I was raised Catholic. Compassion is a word, but the word, what I'm thinking is just Jesus with a crown and blood and the cross. That's what compassion was in my head. But for me, compassion, what I understood is that, wait a moment, Jesus, remove your crown and then give me your cross for a bit. So go and have some water. I think that's what compassion is, right? It's like, it's not just seeing or acknowledging the suffering, but really wanting to do something about it.
Yeah.
But deeply doing it. And then this was when I was starting and learning compassion in a more Buddhist setting. And those practices were the ones that actually changed the way I behave in the world, I would say, because, talking about saving the world, the meta practice that you send good wishes for yourself, and then for a dear one, and then an acquaintance, and then someone you have disagreement with, and then the rest of the world.
Yeah.
That was when I understood how important it was self-care. I never saw, like, my grandmother, she was in Mozambique, my grandmother and my grandfather, and they built the church, the community. They were, and when my grandmother came back after the war, the independence in 74, 75, they came back to Portugal, and my grandmother I grew up with my grandmother then, just helping others a lot, and smiles all over for everybody. But at home, things were different. And I was doing the same, So first, I was not putting my needs first. A lot of times I thought I needed to work and work a lot. So my son didn't have me. I was a workaholic until he was 5 years old when we moved here. And realizing that before me saving the world, I still have to make peace with the people that I'm not getting along with. So and that is all the compassion practice, right? And understanding how it flows within me, understanding how that flows and actually increases each time I keep it for myself a little bit.
So just keeping something for
you.
Yeah,
It doesn't leak anymore, yeah.
I think it is important, though, that practice of forgiveness, because when you're forgiving, if you haven't forgiven, then there's still like an energy connection. But actually what you're doing is forgiving and releasing the hurt. And then actually, if you're coming from that place, it's not easy, is it?
No.
I remember doing it in my mid-20s, when I was single, before I was kind of like got with my husband. And I wasn't spiritual back then, but I just remember sitting in the bedroom and just being like, before bed, like just being really grateful, and then sending love to everybody, and sending love to like all the people who really got on my nerves, or really like as a teenager and stuff. And like, and I was like, yeah, it's a really powerful practice, actually, Jo. And I think
very simple and
very simple,
very effective.
very effective.
Yeah. To do it on the spot at all the times. Yeah.
Do you still do it now?
Yeah,
then?
yeah. There are practices, I imagine, that you don't use it as a practice per se, like you don't repeat it every day, but they kick in when they need.
Yeah.
Right. That's how I feel. Yeah, I wouldn't say that I have one practice nowadays. I have the practice of sitting by my window,
Mm-hmm.
and hey Joe, what's there? Who's there? Who needs me? To some parts work
Mm-hmm.
that has landed as well
Yeah.
in my practice. But yes, meta a lot on the go. Sometimes doesn't work. It really not. It doesn't work, but it's a practice. And eventually, and maybe it was not the outcome that I thought it would work this way,
Mm-hmm.
but it's in a very much more magical way that works out. So
I love that. So, just to conclude our beautiful podcast, I just want to tie in a few of the themes. So, what is your thinking about saving the world, which was our common connection, and how we started to build that trust together? Like, I know you spoke a little bit about your vision for Earthlings and business and things like that. And I know I'm like looking around your house and you've got all these like vision boards and plans. But if you could just describe like what is your vision for the future for Joe, the community, Earthlings and business? Hmm.
it's those villages.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really going for it. That the world is collapsing.
Mm.
I want to die well, so there are super cool social care centers. Like yeah, yeah. I'm literally looking for those who I will die with, or that I will, yeah, or they will die with me. You know what I mean?
That'd be a good dating profile.
But I'm not looking, you see, I'm not looking for a romantic partner for that. You can be in the middle of it, can be, but what I really want is this community, this village, the people
Yeah.
that we share the same interests, that we can live
Mm.
together, that not together, but in the same,
Yeah,
I don't know,
like
area.
ride or dies. Like
Yeah,
when
yeah.
the shit goes down, who do you want around?
But that's exactly. But I am really serious on this, and you know that I am serious by now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not naive at all. The world is real.
No.
Apocalypse is coming, and I
Yeah.
don't.
The
I'm not.
apocalypse is here. You
Yeah.
can feel
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. End of days in the biblical.
Yes. Yes.
If you really, it is a book of Revelation
Yeah.
without getting too deep at the end of the podcast, but it's here, like
Yeah.
it's now, and
Yeah.
that's why we are. I know you don't like the word awakening. We're becoming more aware than we ever did because it's safe for us.
Becoming.
Yeah, becoming. There's a book called that. I'm still going to use awakening because I like it, but
Yeah.
it's really interesting your perspective and it. Yeah. Oh, I could see as you were talking, I could just see these villages of like little lights and people coming together and living maybe off grid and looking after and the children and just like a different way of life.
It. You can still see a lot of that in Portugal, so it's not so
Mm,
different.
no.
I think we just lost. Yeah, we just lost that sense of that need.
Yeah.
But a lot of us are waking up to that.
um,
Yeah,
yeah, because it sounds a bit utopian. Because
it is.
it's really it's really interesting because this is one of the reasons that me and my husband started to like part ways because I have always been like I can see what's coming and we need to have a different way of living. We need to kind of come into community, and he thought I'd just gone crazy. But as time is evolving, I'm like okay. And a lot of people talk about like new earth communities and things like that, but I just think it's important to have these discussions, at least talk about the vision, because in shamanic practices a lot of the indigenous elders say that the reason that the world is the way that it is because is that we've forgotten the dreams. And so when we're in the matrix and we're doing the 9 to 5 and we're having our energy out, we can't think. Because I know, this week I've done a few days and it is all consuming and you can't think of anything else, because if you're at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs where you're just surviving, and that's why there's so much pressure on our bills,
Yes,
everything
yes,
to keep us in the lower chakras of just survival. We can't dream, we can't come together, we can't plan, we can't connect.
yes.
But actually, Joe, you are like a glitch in the matrix.
Well, I do, you know, when I froze and I would go into these depressive stages, my way of dissociation was to dream. So all of this vision was
Whoa.
everything evolved in those moments that I felt totally alienated. Oh yeah, and I could actually, that was when, you know, I was thinking in a solution. How can I, you know, move? Because sometimes it's like I want to go to the toilet and the body doesn't
Yeah,
respond.
I've been at that too.
Yeah. And I think this is very common, but I don't think we talk about this enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then it's, yeah,
But that was my way, you know, this awakening. That was my awakening. Just being on the floor, not being able to move. So it's not pretty.
no,
It's not,
no,
it's like the depths of the
yeah, yeah.
depths.
So that's what, if that is what awakening is. So I had different injections throughout life.
Mm-hmm.
That would happen in my depressive episodes.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and then suddenly I would get the hope because I would find the vision, my purpose, and all of that in that freeze. I would come out all excited, go and shine brightly, and then crash because no one is like, look around, I'm still alone, and the people think that I'm going mad.
Wow.
Yes, like these Earthlings in business, we tried this. I tried this like 4 years ago.
But the time wasn't ready, but the time is
Not
now.
at all, and I was really not at all. This doesn't mean that nothing. It was not yet the time, but it was needed then,
Mm-hmm.
so this could evolve.
Yeah, definitely. I think in life we have little like things don't work for us, but you can't look at them as failure. It's like the time wasn't right, but it's like preparation.
Yes.
So we get a practice run, and then you're like, okay, there was
Yeah.
a practice, the real thing. So
Yeah.
all the knowledge and the skills and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was programmed into climate change, into kind of like, oh my God, we have to. I went on holiday to Cuba and cried because it rained. See, I was depressed for 3 days.
But you were depressed by the state of the world, right?
But it was the climate change fear
Exactly.
program
But
that
it
had
was
been,
that, yeah.
but it sent me. But on the flip side of it, I got loads of survival books, like, so- like all these books came from Amazon. My husband was like, "Oh my God, she's really, really cracked up." But I learned
Let's
about
build a
like,
bunker.
yeah, like how to build a bunker, how to kind of like thingy your water, how to like chickens and grow your own food. So I like on a lot. So then when COVID came, it was like amazing. We baked our own bread and we had our own eggs and like we had all this land and stuff. So actually, I knew I had to prepare for something. What I was preparing for wasn't the right thing. And then obviously I don't have that land and that anymore, but I know that everything that I learned and embodied is for the future vision. So it's all good.
Thank you.
So I've got so many skills now.
Well done.
But at the time, the same. Everyone around you thinks you've gone crazy.
Exactly, yeah. Not everybody. There is always one soul that
Yeah.
finds it interesting, right? But now is the time because everybody
Yeah.
is much more open to new ideas, new ways, new. Yeah, we are breaking the collective conditioning big
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah.
I'm curious about what's to come, and I'm really hopeful. And even though the world out there is mad,
Yeah.
I have a lot of hope, and
Me
I
too.
do think that we are doing great.
I do. But like for the first, I spent 10 years of my life depressed, worried about the state of the world. Oh my God, we're in this climate crisis. This is the end. I can't have children. Like it was, I don't really talk about this, but I literally was in a depression because of everything. And now like, everyone always keep, they're like, oh, you love this and you love great and you love all it. And I'm like, actually, that was a different bit. I really feel hope and inspiration and excited about the future despite everything, and I think that is such a good place to be in,
Yes.
especially considering like when you've talked about your journey and mine, and like we could be in very different places.
It's good to be optimistic, and we can see we become solutions finders, not problem solvers. Like
Yeah.
solution finders. Yeah.
And that for me is like the shamanic path and all the practices. It's like the world is amazing, like nature is amazing. To have that spirit team around you is like the best thing, because you know that you're not alone. And yeah,
I'm still gaining the trust on that.
yeah, of course, and it'll come.
But they do come.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been really beautiful, and I look forward to more.
And next year, I'm gonna just do a little plug for embodied shamanism. So embodied shamanism is in its 5th year of evolution this year. So it starts in September 2025. It runs for 9 months. It starts at the autumn equinox. It finishes at the summer solstice 2026. So it's gonna be an amazing, life-changing journey of embodied shamanic practices, taking you through the medicine wheel, journey into the lower world, the middle world, the upper world, and then through this process of shamanic initiation that we have lost within our culture. But we find ways of connecting with guides that are with you for life. And it is the most magical, experiential program that will change your life. And yeah, just really allow you to connect to these ways that have been forgotten for thousands of years, and together will help us change the world. So thank you, Jo, for being the most amazing guest. Thank you for coming when you're so sick.
Thank you. Thank you for coming here.
Oh yeah, me and him are going to be like so sick after.
Thank you. Thank you.
And as always, you just reveal more and more about you. I don't know how it's possible. I'm like, wow, a new piece of Jo that I didn't know.
I'm starting to believe that I'm interesting. Really, you are making me. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Lots of love. Mwah. How was that? It was awesome. You were amazing, Jo.
It was so nice listening to it.
It was actually Amber that helped us, because it was really shit at the beginning. It was really corporate.